Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. Welcome to the show. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Let me remind you that our past shows are up on J More Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com in the archives. So dig back. There's some great interviews in there from people that you might know or not know, but it's all about food. So dig in. Lots of interesting guests. And I always suggest, listen to it on your walks, your runs, or your drives. Today's guest is Chef Ashish Alfred, chef owner of Duck Goose restaurants in Bethesda and Baltimore, and soon in Washington, D.C., and is the 2019 Restaurant Association of Maryland's Chef of the Year. Let's welcome Chef Ashish. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to have you. I'm just going to tell people we're going to have a slight delay, I think. So bear with us. Welcome, Chef. What's on your plate today?
Thank you, first of all, for having me. On my plate today is building restaurants. So I have two under construction right now, and if you've ever been in the restaurant business, which you have, you know that's never easy, especially right now where lead times are so long. It's impossible to get equipment or get furniture or get whatever else. So dealing with that today.
Oh, just a small couple things, right? Okay. Let's bring up Baltimore Magazine recently when they put out the awards for the year, deemed you the restaurant advocate for Baltimore. And why did they give you that designation?
I think for me, I've been fortunate to grow a little bit of a base of a following for myself, and for me, I've tried to use the restaurants, I guess, less as a pedestal to mark myself as a chef, and more as a pedestal to be an advocate for other people. So I took the opportunity that I had to reach the number of followers that I had, and just kind of get really honest about what was really happening in the restaurant business during the pandemic. I try to be pretty vocal about some of the delivery services like Uber Eats or Postmates or Grubhub or whatever you have. And also I try to be pretty vocal about, what restaurant employees were really going through. I think that the pandemic, for as terrible as it was, I think it pulled back the curtain a little bit on the restaurant business, so people understood when they walk into a restaurant and somebody asks them to pay, $23 for a chicken breast, where does that come from? How do they build that up?
I know that you were talking about it, the dining services like DoorDash, Grubhub, what was it, 30% that they were asking? There was no way
Correct.
that you could make any money on that. And because of what you did and a number of other people, you were very vocal. You did a video, I believe. And at least legislation, it went into law that they couldn't charge over 15%.
Correct. And the overwhelming response that we got from people was a lot of people were just surprised. People had no idea. A lot of people, and that's what was really hurtful, was that a lot of people were going out of their way to not cook at home and order dinner from a local restaurant or order lunch from a local restaurant.
Right.
And they had no idea that 30% of the money that they were giving was going to Uber. They thought that the restaurant was getting most of the money and they were paying a small fee. And a lot of the people that responded to that video, they were like, "Man, I had no idea. I'll just call that restaurant directly."
So it it's been a very strange time, and that's for sure. The You said that you're opening restaurants, so you have Duck Goose in Bethesda, Duck Goose here in Baltimore in Fells Point, and you're going off in another direction with No Way Rosé in Federal Hill. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So Noe Rosé is located in the former bookmaker space right on Cross Street next to the market. We were not necessarily looking for another restaurant. The opportunity presented itself, and the building was in really good shape. The restaurant itself had really good bones, and I've always had an idea to open like a French cafe and lounge, something maybe a little bit more casual than Duck Duck Goose, where we could, have a little bit more fun, turn the music up a little bit louder, serve a little bit more booze, and cater to somebody that may not be looking for, maybe more of a fine dining dinner like what you get at Duck Duck Goose.
Right. So I was curious as to what cuisine you were going to go with, and you're going to stick with the French. You're a graduate of the French Culinary Institute in New York.
Oui.
We worked with all the great chefs up there. I know at some point I was up there, it was Jacques Torres. What were some of the other instructors?
There was Jacques Torres. I mean, Jacques Pepin was the dean. Alain Sayac. Who else am I forgetting? I mean, there was a handful. My class was one of the last classes to really get like the greats of the French Culinary Institute, the people that made the French Culinary Institute, the French Culinary Institute. And that's not a poo-poo on any of the other culinary schools, but I mean, the grandfathers of French cuisine were all there when I was there.
I had the pleasure of being up there for a couple of things. Okay, so we did No Way Jose. Let's talk about your new endeavor and tell everybody. I mean, you have the restaurant, so now there's the Alfred Restaurant Group, and the Alfred Restaurant Group is partnering with the Admiral Fell Inn, which is home to the Duck Duck Goose in Baltimore. You are now going into banquets and catering, and what a great location. The rooftop, I was up there. You had a little kickoff view, almost not quite 360, but almost 360 of Fells Point and the harbor. So that's a new endeavor. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, just so my lawyer doesn't beat me up too bad, it's not the Alfred Restaurant Group, it's Alfred Hospitality, where we unfortunately we had to step away from the Alfred Restaurant Group when we sadly closed one of the restaurants. So it's through Alfred Hospitality, and yes, we have had the opportunity to partner with the Admiral Fell Inn. They've been a phenomenal partner. It's a beautiful hotel at the corner of Broadway and Thames. And the view from that top floor is, in my opinion, it's the best view of Baltimore that you can get. You can see across the water into Fed Hill. You can see the beautiful Sagamore Pendry. You can see up historic Thames Street. I mean, if I was going to get married in Baltimore, throw an event in Baltimore, I can't imagine a better patio to do it on. So much history. I mean, they don't call Baltimore Charm City for nothing, and so much history exists right in that quarter-mile radius, and that fifth floor of the Admiral Fell Inn really puts you at the top of that world.
It's a beautiful area with the cobblestones, and it's where I think when the boats used to come in days of yore, the sailors would go off. They always said, "Why are there so many bars there?" Because they had to be able to hear them when they called from the boat. And it's a great area, cobblestones. So if you're visiting, come to Baltimore, come into Fells Point, visit Duck Duck Goose, and then I would say Duck Duck Goose in Bethesda, soon Duck Duck Goose in Washington, D.C. I want to talk about your past, which you've been very open about, very challenging. And there have been articles written about you in the Washington Post, Baltimore Magazine, and you were on the Today Show about your struggles with drugs and alcohol. I mean, you were bullied as a young child. You used to cut yourself. It was a tough home life with an alcoholic father. Since 2014, you've been sober and putting your history out there to see. What has been the most rewarding feedback that you've gotten from all these stories going out, and how you were able to redeem your life and want to live?
I think that what's been most rewarding for me is to see other people come forward, to see other people not not find shame in this. Sorry, I still get choked up when I talk about it, but it's so many people reached out to me, especially after I did the Today Show, which naturally there's such a high viewership, and so many people either they were struggling with something themselves or they had somebody very close to them struggling, and I think by me being vocal about it and not having any shame, because I don't. I've gotten to where I am because of where I've been, and I'm going to go where I'm going to go because of where I've been, and I think that's been the most rewarding thing to see that some of the stigma of shame come away from some people, especially within my own community. In the minority community, things like abuse and alcoholism and drug addiction are not things that are easily discussed in this. I mean, to be clear, not in any community really, but even more so in a minority community, to see so many people of Black and brown skin come forward and say, I've dealt with the same thing. I'm dealing with the same thing. And to see so many people, I don't preach my story. What works for me may not work for you. And I tell people when they reach out to me, maybe you have a problem, maybe you don't. And I think that by having almost, I don't want to say a laissez-faire attitude about it, but by just keeping it simple, I've been able to reach a lot of people, and also a lot of my close friends, people who I've known for years, have reached out to me to take their first steps into getting sober, or maybe they didn't get sober, maybe they just changed their relationship with drugs and alcohol, or maybe they just looked an issue they might be dealing with in the face, whether it's anxiety or depression. That's been very rewarding for me, and to be able to be available and be present for those people, that's been rewarding to me.
Well, that's like AA. You always have to have somebody there, like a big brother, a mentor, a sponsor. So you do that. I like a quote that I saw on your Instagram. Let me read it because I can't remember anything anymore. And this is what you said. Don't forget, you can start late, you can start over, you can give up, you can change your mind, be unsure, fail multiple times, and still succeed. That sure fits a number of people. And I think about that and struggles, many chefs. The industry is known to have a certain amount of drug abuse, alcoholism. But to think back that Anthony Bourdain, his beginnings were drugs and alcohol, and he was able to move forward and look where he came. Sorry about that he could not cope for whatever demons he had, but there's always hope. There's always a way. And I liked your quote, and I just don't give up, I think is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Keep trying.
And I think whatever it is, I think a lot of people, life is already hard. The world is already hard. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. The only person typically the only people that set unrealistic boundaries on ourselves when it comes to ourself is ourself. If I'm pretty active in the gym or in sobriety and whatever, and yes, I struggled with it 1,000 times. I tell people I got sober 1,000 times before I got sober. Whether even with the gym, I quit the gym 10,000 times before I started going to the gym. It's never too late. Even as chefs, you look at some of these chefs out there and you're like, man, this guy keeps bouncing around, or he can't seem to find a home somewhere. And, I have a lot of admiration for the guys that don't give up, because you never know where it's going to hit for you. You never know when God and the universe are going to line up for you and make things work. So every day can be your first day.
Well, I think in watching, and people can find this on the Today Show, and I think just look up Chef Ashish Alfred and Today Show, and you can see it was a very good interview. And as you said, each day you start over with your sobriety. You say, let me just get through today. It's not trying to tackle the whole thing.
I agree. And, I'm not perfect every day. I'm not perfect every day, but I make the decision every day that today's a new day. And, I've had to close a business. I've made every mistake that you can make in this business, but I've never given up, no matter how hard it's gotten, no matter how stressful it's gotten, no matter how much I've burned myself, cut myself, whatever. You know, I struggle, and I just, for me, I don't quit.
You know, it's in the number of people that I've interviewed. One of my recent questions is, what would you now advice give the young you? And most of them said, don't give up, go for it. What would you say to your 21-year-old self?
um, you know, me talking to my 21-year-old self, I would say, stop trying to control everything. You don't even know what you don't know. And I tell myself, I would tell myself the same thing today. All you can do every day is put your best foot forward, and things are either going to work out for you or they don't. And you know, and life will go on.
I want to switch topics. Let's talk Gene Weingarten's article in the Washington Post magazine. I think the article titles Things He Won't Eat, and what a stir, and should be. The stir was about curry. Padma Lakshmi took him to task. Being of Indian heritage, how did you react to that article? Or what are your feelings about it? I can imagine how you reacted.
You know, I need to be really honest. I am not a connoisseur of Indian food. I I enjoy it, but I don't know as much as Padma knows about it. That being said, and this is somebody that has a lot of respect and owes a lot of his career to, and I'm talking about myself. I have a lot of respect and I owe a lot of my career to the Washington Post. I believe it to be a very reputable news source. So I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how that even came out. You know, in this community, I mean, any community, it would be a little bit of a shock to me, but especially in the Washington D.C. community, how that even ran. To be honest, I reposted something that somebody wrote about that article one time, and then I didn't say anything else about it, because I think that somebody that is that stupid, racist, and callous isn't worthy of my opinion. I think the world will weigh, measure, and judge him on their own. I refuse to use my name or my platform to give him 1 ounce of credibility.
Okay, change subjects, right? Okay.
I mean, I'll just add this in finish. I've been to India on several occasions. I've had the privilege of being to different parts of India. And I can say with 100% certainty, as a chef, as somebody that's worked with food for more than the last decade of my life, the statement that he made is unequivocally untrue.
Well, first of all, he said curry as one big spice, and curry means multiple spices. He made no sense in what he was saying. It didn't sound knowledgeable. It's just he just didn't like flavors, but he really just screwed up. Okay. I actually worked for a spice company for a period of time, and an interesting thing, people tend to grasp onto flavor profiles and their different stages of it. I can sit there and go through the balsamic vinegar or things come out. And when I worked at the spice company, they had a spice called curry salt. It was fabulous. Couldn't sell it. They changed the name. Didn't say curry salt. Flew off the shelves. I don't know why.
I think the
Okay.
perception needs to change. The perception, I think, around Indian food and culture needs to change. And I think that the passive aggressive comments that we allow to be made about Indian food and Indian culture, I think that needs to change as well. I mean, I think that people have an idea of what they think Indian culture is or what it is to be Indian, and that's not true. And I think that notable Indians need to make every effort they can to kind of step away from those stereotypes.
Well, and I think also, like the United States, India has many regions. We have many regions. There's barbecue in the south. There's this in the north. There's hot dogs in Chicago. There's different cuisines for different regions, and India has a plethora of great flavors, and some being seafood, some being coconut. So people get some Indian food. Okay, I'm changing subject, but back to your menu. You have something on your menu. It's called Parisian Gnocchi. Can you tell us what Parisian gnocchi is? I know Italian gnocchi. What makes it Parisian?
So it's pâte à choux. Instead of a potato dough that you would usually use for gnocchi, it's pâte à choux. So the same kind of dough that you would use to make an eclair, or the same kind of dough that you would use to make little cream puffs. We take that, we put it in a piping bag, we pipe it into boiling salted water, we blanch it
Okay.
just quickly, pull it out, set it to dry, and then we sear it. So we give it a little bit of color.
Okay. And what goes on that?
Right now we're serving it with corn, chanterelle mushrooms, and then we grate a little fresh pecorino over the top. It's my favorite thing on the menu. My culinary director wanted to put it on, and anytime somebody says gnocchi in a restaurant that turns a lot of covers, it kind of makes your hair stand up a little bit. And then he presented this Parisian version of it, and I said, "Man, this really works. It's got texture, it's got color, it's fun to eat. I mean, we can't stop selling it."
Well, it says a lot for you that you're open to suggestion by your staff and the people that you work with, rather than being a dilettante. And this is how we do it, and it's my way or no way, Jose. Um, and also known, we were talking earlier that a chef that we know raved to me about your Duck Duck Goose burger. And that is Gruyere cheese, blueberry jam, foie gras. What combination of meats do you use in your burger? Do
Can't
you
tell
care
you.
to share? You can't tell me?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I can tell you there's some brisket in there. There's some chuck flap in there. That's about all I can tell you.
Okay, so it's a big secret. All right. Um, Considering that you had a troubled past, you're going forward, having success. Where are you most content?
In the kitchen. In the kitchen or with my dogs.
I read that you named one of your dogs Marco for Marco Pierre White,
Oui, oui.
the English bad boy chef. Um,
Yes.
I read White Heat a number of years ago, and I've we brought it up on the show a couple of times. White Heat by Marco Pierre White. He brought Gordon Ramsay to tears. He threw hot
Hmm.
risotto on Mario Batali.
Yes,
And
he
I
did.
think in his first chapter, White Heat, he threw a cheese board against the wall.
He
But
did.
why Marco Pierre White for you? Why is he your hero?
I wouldn't say he's my hero, but I think that, um, he's the one of the last of the old guard of like real chefs for like young guys who got into nouvelle cuisine. Before that it was all older guys that stepped into nouvelle cuisine with the Trois Gros family, and the guys that came over and ran Lutèce and places like that. Marco was really out on an island on his own, and a young guy to get 3 Michelin stars. Yes, did he behave in ways that you could never get away with today? Yes, he did. But if as a young cook in New York City, you heard the stories and everybody dropped his name. So then his book came out, and he had the cigarettes and the long hair, and he was cool, and it was just everything that you thought you wanted to be as a chef until you actually grew up a little bit and realized it was a very unhealthy way to live.
No, but it made for good reading, that was for sure. Um,
Yes.
Best meal, where, what made it special? Your best meal.
Best.
Not something you cook, something somebody else cooked.
Man. Best meal. So 2 or 3 times a week, I go to the Tasty Diner in downtown Bethesda, and I order the meatloaf. And if they don't have meatloaf, then I'll do a simple like scrambled eggs and toast. But the meal is great. The meatloaf is okay, but the atmosphere is fantastic. And I think that that place epitomizes what a restaurant should do well. A restaurant should make you feel loved and welcomed, and put you at ease and make you not have to worry about anything. And I judge a place on their bread and their coffee, and the Tasty Diner does both very well. So my best meal happens 2 or 3 times a week at the Tasty Diner in downtown Bethesda.
Okay, so everybody knows where they can find you. Okay. Would you say the meatloaf is your comfort food, or is there something else that's your comfort food?
Definitely.
The meatloaf.
Definitely.
And I guess, did they tell you what kind of meat they put in their meatloaf?
I didn't ask.
Yeah.
I should say that when I'm going out to eat, just of my own, two of my preferred spots are, if I'm in Baltimore, I like to go to the Gunther. I think they do a really good job. The service is phenomenal. The space is beautiful, and they really do a great job with the food. It's right around the corner from my place, and I can always count on them for a good meal. Another place that I really enjoy is I do go to Tagliata. I think Julian over there does a phenomenal job with the food. Two of my favorite restaurants in Baltimore, and then when I'm closer to DC, I go to Woodmont Grill probably more than I should.
Is that in Bethesda?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I went to Paris recently for the first time as a grown-up. I went once as a small boy, and I couldn't really appreciate it, and I hated it because my mother was dragging me around to stand in this line for that and that line for this. But I went this time as a chef, and I fell in love, and I plan to go back often and soon.
Okay. My next to the last question that is always on the list. What was your epic culinary fail?
Oh, wow. Do you mean like a dish?
Dish, whatever. I've told this story a million times. Not that I came from a kosher home, but sausage was never served. I'm out on my own, I'm cooking pasta, and somebody says, I'd like some sausage. What did I know? These very early on. And I got one of those jars of pickled sausage.
Oh, no.
Now, you know how I took one bite and I just threw everything out and we ordered in pizza. But I shared mine. You need to share yours.
Epic culinary failure. The one that rings out was when I first started as a restaurateur. We booked a bat mitzvah, and the family had arrived. They were looking for the buffet to open, and I didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. So the food came out 2 hours late. I'm pretty sure the chicken was probably still clucking when they got it. It was just bad on bad on bad. And if ever there was a time as a chef that I wanted the world to swallow me whole, that was the time. And occasionally I will come up with some harebrained idea and put something on the menu. And luckily I have a good relationship with my managers, and they're just like, yeah, that shit ain't gonna work. Figure something else out.
And I remind people that in the notes and everything coming up, but I'm going to do it now, just pulling it here, we have a lot of contact information. But to reach Chef Alfred, you can reach him. His social is Chef Ashish Alfred. And the Alfred Restaurant Group, these are at social media DDG Baltimore, DDG Bethesda, Goose DC, No Way Rosé Baltimore, which is up and coming, and their Facebook pages for all this, and the web page Just put in DuckDuckGoose Baltimore or DuckDuckGoose Bethesda, and you'll get the website. But this is all filtered up. I have to tell you about something I got just reaching for a note. The Discovery Channel has a tiny food fight. I know you've been in a lot of competitions, but listen to this. Miniature appliance and utensils. Over the course of a 6 half-hour episodes, 3 contestants must create shrunken dishes and make this feat even more difficult. They must use equally tiny kitchen and equipment. And you've all seen those videos where it's like the little hamster eating a little thing. This is the competition. Had you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that, but I'm also not rushing to sign up for it.
I mean, it's just, I think they're reaching now for these competitions. And finally, chef. What didn't I ask you that I should have?
You didn't ask me what's contributed to my success. And I'm here in no small measure by the people that have loved me and believed in me and stood by me and dealt with whatever measure of crazy I doled out on that day. So I never like to miss an opportunity to say thank you to those that have supported me and stood by me, professionally and personally. I'm here in no small measure because of all of those people, and also because of the people that follow me, that have kept up with my cooking antics and my fitness antics and my travel antics. I promise to try to keep it interesting, and I promise that I'm grateful for every single person that has ever believed in me for even 1 minute.
Well, I think those are wonderful words. Everyone, Chef Ashish Alfred, Duck Duck Goose, Duck Duck Goose, Duck Duck Goose, and No Way Rose. Look for them. Chef, moi, thank you so much for joining us. Much success.
Thank you. Take care.
And here I am. Time to fill you in on next week's show. Will be all about Neapolitan pizza. It'll be Ed Bosco of Verdi Pizza, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming charity Dining Out for Life, for the benefit of Meals on Wheels. So if you love pizza, tune in. I want to take this time to wish my Jewish audience, I'm Jewish, but from me to you, wish you a Lashana Tova, a happy and sweet Jewish New Year's to you all. I am Dara Bunjon. I am the food enthusiast here at J More Living on Facebook and jmoreliving.com. If you'd like to reach out to me, my email is food@jmoreliving.com. My social is @DaraCooks. The show will be up for perpetuity on J More Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com's page. So feel free to watch this later on if you missed part of it, and also dig into the archives and check out some of the other shows. So until next week, may your plates remain full. Thank you for joining us.